Hey everyone, so I needed to talk about how bad my first day of owning this new business that I bought, this first aid and CPR business in Perth, Australia. Yeah, this was a few months ago now, so I've kind of gotten over it, but let me explain this tough day that I had, and also it can hopefully be used by you out there if you're looking to make an acquisition in. Hopefully you can get a lesson out of this anyway. So I'll try my best to explain kind of how this went down and why it was such a pretty tough day on myself. So it wasn't because like the seller abandoned me or anything like that. It wasn't because the business wasn't what I expected. It wasn't because I found any skeletons in the closet. So it was nothing like that. This was something that I probably could have predicted and avoided. Okay, I'll go into the details. So the story actually starts back in like March 2023. See, there was like a random day in like the middle of the afternoon in my house in Bali, and I just started to feel a bit dizzy. I tried walking to my room. The intensity kind of spiked and I actually collapsed to the ground. I'd lost all my balance. It was like everything was spinning. I was like really drunk and really seasick at the same time. It was really like horrible, intense feeling. And my eyes started blurring. My ears were ringing. I had this like sickening feeling like I was going to vomit. I essentially crawled to the bathroom, laid there for a few hours, and all I could do was just think about just stay alive and keep breathing. I couldn't get to my phone. I couldn't open my eyes. It was a pretty intense sort of moment, and I obviously had no idea what was going on. I soiled myself. I was vomiting uncontrollably on the floor. I honestly thought I had like a really bad case of food poisoning because I was in Bali, so it was logical to think that. After a few hours, things started to improve to a point where, although mentally and physically I was exhausted, I was okay. So didn't really know how to treat that. I thought, like I said, maybe food poisoning. So 3 days later, it actually happened in the middle of the night while I was sleeping. I just completely spun out. I spent a few hours uncontrolled on the bathroom floor. I obviously then needed to go get some testing done, which I did. I got brain scans done. All my bodily samples were tested. Nothing was obviously wrong. So this continued for unfortunately, about 3 months, maybe every 3 or 4 days. I'd be doing this whole I called it an attack. This sort of attack thing was happening. Eventually, I found out it was something called Meniere's disease, and it's quite an under-researched thing where I have these really strong vertigo symptoms, and it's quite random. Essentially, another 12 months now has gone by. The intensity started to reduce. I was able to manage my symptoms pretty well. Even sometimes I'd be like driving my own motorbike, and I'd feel the symptoms coming on. I'd pull over, find a tree, rest up against the tree for an hour, and I was generally okay. Another time I was with my friends in London and I was at a co-work, and I had to essentially just lay on the floor in the co-work with the jacket over my face in the corner just because my eyes got really sensitive. So anyway, for about 3 months leading up to the purchase of this business, I hadn't had an attack. I thought I had got through it. I thought the problem had gone away. I think the cold air in Georgia might have helped me. But anyway, sure enough, the day the business was officially mine on handover day, I had a pretty big regression back and I had quite a big attack. The stress of the transaction maybe, and the jump in workload that I'm not used to, I don't know. I could hardly open my eyes all day. My brain was spinning. I had to go to the banks and wire money, sign legal documents, organize this handover schedule. I tried my best. I told the seller what was happening and just did the best I could. I think I just really put most of this pressure on myself. See, like the money had to change over that day, but besides that, almost everything else could have waited. I put the stress on myself because I told the seller that this was the day that he would sell his business. I just didn't want to let him down. So yeah, I kind of put that on my shoulders. Anyway, a few days later, now I was the new owner of the business. I was driving to class to teach, and I had an attack actually on the highway. I pulled over, ran into a shopping center bathroom, and I was sick everywhere. I managed to call the seller and asked him to come and help me and take the class. I was actually going to teach a class. I got him to come and get the equipment out of my car and help me out as best he could, and which he did, and he was on time for, so it was lucky that I was heading there early for a class anyway. But essentially my health regressed back, and now I'm in this new business. I've moved to Perth, and my health went downhill pretty quickly around that time of the transition. Fortunately, things have looked a little bit more positive over the last month or so, but at the time, you can imagine, like, I was questioning everything. I was like, how am I going to run this business and get it functioning when I have this health issue? It hasn't been solved yet. I guess I have reduced my stress. I'm working on my sleep. I'm working on hiring help, but I realize that the business is fragile until I grow things out a little bit. So you might now be thinking, why would I go through all this? I could just keep investing in stocks and let other people stress over the operations of companies. And I do obviously have my Interactive Brokers account for that, which is the safest broker in the world, by the way. There's a link in the description, as always. But the difference is the opportunity that buying a private business offers. See, I'll go over my deal in an upcoming video, but essentially you can buy a private business in the lower end of the market at two, three times earnings. And for me, the way I was able to structure the deal, I'm looking at a conservative 100% annualized return on my investment in the first year. So that's without factoring in growth, and also including that I'm going to hire people that are going to come on and help me. Factoring in those costs as well, I'm still looking at this 100% ROI. And yeah, I have to put some sweat equity into this, and I have had some tough days, but the opportunity, I guess, makes me feel alive. It gets me through those really hard moments when I'm laying on the shopping center toilet floor trying to stop the world from spinning. Yeah, it's not actually about the money. It's about the adventure, and I've sure signed up for a pretty serious adventure here. Anyway, the lesson I'm taking from the story that I'd like to share as a warning for others out there that are buying a business is that on closing day, or if you're planning to operate the new business at all, build in backup plans for what happens if you get sick. Do this before landing into the position. Don't think that I'm going to get there and figure it out as we go. I would be thinking about, like, what happens in the first 3 weeks if I'm really sick? What happens if something happens to my family? What happens if this? I would be thinking about backups of backups and all sorts of things now. I've gone through that mentally myself. And knowing my own health issues, I should have planned this a lot better. I could have done things from the comfort of my own home, done things over Zoom, the internet. Obviously, why did I have to go and meet with this in person and go to banks in person? All this stuff can now pretty much be done online anyway. So essentially, I should have had a plan for if and when I got sick. So yeah, there you go. There's my horrible first day. It was probably about as bad as it gets physically. Anyway, a big thank you I got to say to my partner. She helped me out a lot on that first day. She came with me. She spent the whole day with me while I was managing things as best I could. She helped me get home that day. I had to drive home, with the hazard lights on in the car at about half the speed limit in the far left-hand lane, like in the slow lane. And I don't know, I think it took like 90 minutes to drive like 20 kilometers an hour, and there was like no traffic. So she just talked me through it all, kept me focused. And yeah, anyway, I appreciate her helping me out that day a lot. I needed that. But yeah, it has been about a month now since I've had an attack, and I'm getting more medical testing done. So hopefully I'm going to get to the bottom of this and figure it all out. But yeah, big lessons learned here, which is what happens when I get sick if I'm operating this business. If this is a one-man show, I really should have had more concrete plans in place. All right, hope you've enjoyed. Discord is where I hang out, by the way. Another link in description for that as well if you want to talk to me outside of YouTube comments and things like that. So yeah, Discord for that. Otherwise, yeah, see you in the next video.